So, have you ever wondered why some people are so hard to communicate with? Why some people just don't seem to get the message? This Thursday, today, our speaker, Sandy Robb, is a distinguished Toastmaster and a storyteller. She will share some insights into why our attempts at communication sometimes fail and provide tips on how we can become better communicators. With the speech entitled Communication, please help me welcome Sandy Robb.
Let's travel way back in time to the days of our earliest ancestors, the cavemen. In a time before formal language, their communication was limited to grunts and gestures. And the only way they could pass on their stories for future generations was by carving the pictures and symbols into the walls of their caves, storytelling at its most basic. Now let's time travel forward to right now, where we have the technology to view and chat with astronauts who are hurtling through space millions of miles above the Earth. Think of all the ways besides face-to-face or telephone that we have available today to help us communicate better. Zoom, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and the list goes on, and new apps are being developed all the time. Does this mean that we're great communicators? I don't think so. And the reason I say that is just do a Google search on communication and you'll come up with thousands of books on the subject written over the years. There are also so many programs that address communication online, conferences, TED Talks, employee training, and the list is endless. If we were great communicators, these books and these ways of these conferences and that wouldn't even exist anymore. And there would be no need for programs like Dale Carnegie or Toastmasters. There wouldn't be many misunderstandings. And possibly there may have even been over time fewer wars. What then are we doing wrong? And what can we do differently in order to communicate better? Let me share a story with you to illustrate. I grew up in a really tiny village in southern or eastern Manitoba. It was pretty basic there, and we didn't have a lot of the conveniences that we have today. We didn't get electricity till I was almost 7 years old. We didn't have a phone. We didn't have indoor plumbing, but we did have running water. We just had to run to the well with our buckets to get it. We grew all of our own vegetables. And one day my mother was coming in from the garden. She had a big basin of lettuce, and she had my 4-year-old brother Vic in tow. She was going to wash the lettuce at the well rather than taking it indoors. Now, my father had built, because of the extreme temperatures in Manitoba, my father had built this nice little shed around the well so that it wasn't so hot in the summertime, because Manitoba's got pretty extreme temperatures. And it also stopped it from freezing up too early in the wintertime. So it was a nice insulated shell, but big enough for one person. So when my mom arrived, she asked my brother to wait outside, and she went in to wash the lettuce. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever used a manual pump, but what happens is you pump and you pump and you pump and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden the water spurts out all over the place. And that's exactly what happened to her. It overfilled her basin. It trickled down across the floor and woke up a teensy-weensy sleeping garter snake who had slithered in to get out of the blazing sun. Oh, did I happen to mention my mother was terrified of snakes? She had an absolute phobia. In her mind, this was not a teeny-weeny little garter snake. This was a monster boa constrictor that was ready to suck the life right out of her. She was terrified. She leaped backwards. And when she did, her one foot went crashing through a floorboard that was rotting. And she sunk up to her hip down in the well, the other foot sticking straight out above her or in front of her on the boards. As she let out her scream, the basin of lettuce went flying, the basin clattered to the floor, and all of the leaves of lettuce scattered around her like rose petals at a wedding. She was terrified, and the little snake who had been disturbed, in my mom's mind, this gigantic boa constrictor, now took up residence in the doorway of the well house. My mother screamed, "Vic, go get Dad, fast, tell him Mommy needs help." And off trotted the messenger. If you think that this story may not go too well, you could be right. Mom waited, and she waited, and she waited, and nothing happened. Even if she had been able to free herself, there was no way that she was going to get past that monster snake in the doorway. She started to panic, and she couldn't help it. She didn't know why my dad wasn't coming, and she started to scream, "Pete, help me, Pete, please help me." My dad, off in the distance, chopping wood, thought he heard some kind of a noise and thought he'd better go over and investigate. And as he walked over, he realized what the problem was. He picked up the teeny little snake and put it outside on the grass. And then he helped Mom and freed her from her prison in the well. Now that she was free, Mom was furious. "Didn't Vic come and get you? I told him to come and get you." And my dad said, "Yeah, he came." And Mom said, "Well, why didn't you come?" And Dad said, "I didn't think it was important." Mom was beside herself. This isn't important." And my dad said, "Well, you know our little boy. He's always thinking of his stomach." So he came trotting over to me when I was cutting wood, and he said, "Daddy, Mom dropped the lettuce." Mom dropped the lettuce. Those 4 little words. And yet my brother did live to adulthood. But what those 4 words do is they illustrate the main components necessary for effective communication. And those 3 components are the message, the messenger, and the audience. And they all have to work together to be successful. Let me explain. The message. Our message has to be clear and easily understood. We can't assume people see things the way we do, and they will know automatically what we mean. Our message has to be explicit and appropriate and tailored to the age and the understanding of the people meant to hear it. In this example, if Mom had said to Vic, "Run fast, tell Daddy Mommy fell in the well, she needs help now," the story may have had a happier conclusion. The second component, the messenger. We need to use the right medium to convey our message in a manner appropriate to the situation. In other words, never use a 4-year-old named Vic to deliver a message. But outside of that, if your communication is verbal, your tone needs to reflect your message. And also in verbal communication, sentences have to be short and clear. If the audience doesn't understand a written message, particularly a complex or a wordy one, they can reread it over and over if necessary. But once they haven't understood your spoken words, you've lost them. The medium you use to deliver your message must be in sync with your message. You wouldn't compose a Facebook message the way you'd put together a resume for a job interview. You probably wouldn't text your grandma with, "Hey baby, what's shaking?" Whether in person or through any written or electronic media, the message and the messenger must match. And your third component, of course, is your audience. Consider your audience's age and understanding of your subject matter. If your audience is your dog, come, sit, or stay may be effective messaging, but that's not going to work in a room full of PhD students, or even elementary students for that matter. Make it clear what you want your audience to do with the information that you're sharing. Are they supposed to think, act, react, complete a task, respond, ponder? What do you want them to do? And whether it's an informal conversation about who's going to load the dishwasher, or whether it's a keynote speech delivered to thousands, what you say and how you deliver it has to be clear enough that your audience understands what's in it for them. And equally as important, what is expected from them. In case I haven't been clear, my message to you is that by showing you where and how communication can break down, I've given you 3 simple tools to use to improve the effectiveness of your communication. I urge you to make your voice better understood by keeping those 3 components of effective communication in mind: your message, the messenger, and your audience. And I now turn it back to our mediator, who will invite you to share your thoughts on communication, perhaps some stories of communication gone wrong, and perhaps some strategies that have worked for you.